Hello, everyone. We will be presenting on Polydactyly. And so, of course, I had to add the meme from Princess Bride about the six-figured man. Gotta kill the six-figured man because he killed Inigo Montoya's father. So, yes.
So the name of the condition we're doing today is polydactyly or polydactylism. And this is a condition in which a person is born with extra fingers or extra toes. And the fingers or toes may be partially or fully formed. They may have bone structure or just form as a nub. And there's different types of this, which is determined by the placement of where the fingers or toes are. So on the picture to the right, you can see the types of polydactyly. There's preaxial polydactyly, where the finger grows on the radial side of the hand or the foot. In postaxial polydactyly, which is the furthest to the right on the types of polydactyly, the digit grows on the ulnar region of the hand or the foot, which is nearest to the pinky toe or pinky finger. And the last type is complex polydactyly. And in this type, the growth occurs in the center of the hand or the foot. On this chart, you can see the various types of each kind. So on the left side of the chart, there's the different kinds of preaxial polydactyly. And on the right, there's postaxial, and bottom right is complex polydactylies.
Next, I'm going to talk about the causes of polydactyly. One of the main causes is the GLI3 gene, which basically stops the cell from going into S phase, where it makes more DNA and really starts deciding that it's going to eventually divide, go into mitosis, all of that. So what GLI3 does is it stops the CDK, that cyclin-dependent kinase, from being that cell signal to make the cell get ready to go into S phase. And so with people that have polydactyly, there's a mutation of the GLI3 gene. And so the cell will go into S phase, even when there's already enough fingers.
So polydactyly is an autodominant trait, which means it's equally inherited by males and females, and it is a dominant trait, meaning if the gene is present, it will be expressed as the phenotype. And the gene responsible for this is GLI3, which is involved in the normal shaping of many tissues, including the hands or feet. And the gene is found on chromosome number 7. And then since most people present with 5 digits on each hand and foot, most people are homozygous recessive for the trait. On the right-hand side, there is a chart with the possible gametes when mixing a heterozygous dominant for the trait and a homozygous recessive. Which would lead to a one-to-one of the genotypes and phenotypes. And on this slide is a presentation of a pedigree of the inheritance, starting with the first generation having the heterozygous dominant and the homozygous recessive, then leading to different methods of inheritance throughout.
So the treatment of polydactyly is usually with surgery, and this is done by removing the extra finger or toe. And the difficulty of the surgery varies depending on the type of polydactyly. So for preaxial polydactyly, the surgery is slightly more difficult because the thumb is involved in the surgery, and thumb correlates with a lot of hand function. Postaxial polydactyly is the easiest kind of surgery because it's on the ulnar side of the hand, which has less to do with hand function. And with complex polydactyly, this is the most difficult kind of surgery because it has to do with the most hand function. And there's also a gene editing technology called CRISPR, Cas9, and this is an enzyme that this technology can modify, delete, or correct portions of DNA. On the right, you can see a chart of how it works. So the Cas9 enzyme takes a portion of DNA and cuts it out, and then there's a pre-designed portion of DNA that is inserted into the DNA.
For diagnosis, there's a couple different options. Using an ultrasound, you can notice that the baby will or will not have polydactyly before they're born, just by looking at the bone formation and if there's digits that are fused together or if there's extra digits on the hands. Post-birth, you can just visually examine and then use an X-ray to decide what type of polydactyly it is. And then, as previously mentioned, a lot of times people choose to surgically remove it afterwards.
So polydactyly can affect different types of people. So in the general population, it occurs in 1 in every 1,000 births. However, it is twice as common amongst men, yet it is not a sex-linked trait. And finally, it presents most frequently in the African American population, occurring in 1 in every 150 births. On the right is a picture of a person that actually presents with polydactyly. So we chose a research article on polydactyly that studied the 5 different generations of an Indian family. So one of the results from the family of the study was mutations of the same gene can lead to significant phenotypical variants. So for example, one of the elder generations had bilateral, had an extra thumb on both hands. However, in a younger, later generations, on this man right here, he has 5 digits on this hand. However, his thumb has 3 joints instead of 2. And then on the other hand, he has 2 thumbs instead of a traditional 1. And then, however, one of the youngest in the generations had presented with an extra digit on each hand and foot. So as can be seen, even though the trait was inherited, the same gene was inherited between different generations, it led to different phenotypical expressions.
And similarly to what was said earlier, this determined that the trait is not sex-linked, even though it occurs most often in men. You can see by the chart here and the calculated x-squared values that it was an even distribution between males and females in each of the generations. So this proved that the trait was independent of sex and is an autosomal dominant gene.
This is a pedigree of the 5 families shown in kind of a circular way. So the very center, you have the great grandparents, and then the next generation is closer in on the circle, and then you kind of go out and get kids and kids and kids. And this pedigree is also cool because it shows the different types of polydactyly that are present. So if it's totally bold, that can be one thing, and then half and half can be another thing. And so it's showing how a parent that has one type can lead to a kid that has a different type of polydactyly. And this is our works cited. Thank you for watching.